I remember back in the mid-'80s, I was working at WSB Radio here in Atlanta after a couple of years at CNN. And I was very interested in the Reagan administration because Reagan had been in my life as a television announcer and as a movie star for most of my life. I remember, what was the name of that movie? King's Walk or something? King's Row that Reagan was in. And the one about the football team, win it for the Gipper and all this other stuff. And what was it? Midnight to Bonzo or leave bedtime for Bonzo. I was young. But Reagan was an actor. And when I was a kid, he came on the television almost every night, but it seemed like it every night. It was actually, I guess, once a week. 20 Mule Team Borax. Anybody remember that? Where it would be Tales of the Old West, and old Ron would be out there sometimes with his cowboy hat on and with his Western shirt on, and he would set up the story that was the teleplay that was about to happen. Then he'd come back and do commercials for General Electric. He eventually graduated from 20 Mule Team Borax to General Electric Theater. You remember all this? So that's how I knew, quote, quote, Ronald Reagan. So when he ran for president in 78 and 79, whenever it was, the second time he won when he got elected, I hadn't gotten into radio yet. I was working here in Atlanta for one of the local newspapers, and I went to work for Jimmy Carter as part of the Peanut Brigade. And when I say went to work, I mean as a volunteer. And I used to get on the phone, call people up, soliciting people. Don't forget to vote for Jimmy Carter. Don't forget. Blah, 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 blah. And I didn't hate Reagan. And as years went by, when I went to work for Air American, I met Ron Reagan Jr. and met him and realized this is really a nice guy, Ron Reagan Jr. But President Reagan had more people either resigned from his administrations, he had two of them, or were told either resign or we're going to indict you, or people who went to jail. I mean, it was unbelievable. I kept a record. I was working in radio, and I started keeping a record of all the people from the Reagan administration who wound up on the wrong side of the law. And it was up around 80 of these sons of bitches. I mean, low-level functionaries all the way up to cabinet members. One of the cabinet members was the former labor secretary, Ray Donovan. You remember him? He resigned from Reagan's cabinet after being indicted on fraud charges. And that went on for a couple of years until they finally had the trial. The trial was held in New York where the fraud occurred, and he was acquitted. Ray Donovan was found not guilty. I don't mean he's innocent. He was just found not guilty. Let's be clear here. But Ray Donovan said something at the time that really, I could really feel empathy for what the man said. He said, "Which office do I go to now to get my reputation back?" Now, some of you will remember that. And at the time, I thought, the guy has a point. Whether he was guilty or not after the jury renders a verdict is immaterial. It doesn't fucking matter. The jury said not guilty. End of story. So where did Ray Donovan go to get his reputation back? Well, he didn't. And as Max Boot, wrote a columnist for the Washington Post, said, "I thought of Donovan's famous lament this week after the Justice Department Inspector General concluded that while the FBI had made some mistakes in its investigation of the Trump campaign's ties to Russia, it had legitimate grounds to open the investigation. It did not spy on the campaign, and it was not pursuing any political agenda." So much for the vitriol Trump has been spewing for years about former FBI Director James Comey, leaking lying James Comey, former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, that Trump said was a major sleazebag, a disgrace to the FBI and a disgrace to our country. This is the president talking. Former FBI lawyer Lisa Page and former FBI agent Peter Strzok, incompetent and corrupt FBI lovers. Justice Department Attorney Bruce Orr, in legal jeopardy. It's astonishing that he's still employed. Former Special Counsel Robert Mueller, the highly conflicted leader of 18 angry Democrats, and various other individuals. Trump accused them of concocting a phony and treasonous hoax and of attempting to overthrow the president through an illegal coup. Everything this pig son of a bitch Trump has said has been a lie, a damnable lie. The only hoax perpetrated on this country since this filthy pig made his descent on the escalator, the only hoax has been the one that Trump has been, is, and will be perpetrating for as long as he's in office. Max Boot writes, we are so used to the venomous way Trump tweets and talks that we've forgotten how unprecedented, appalling, and unhinged this all actually is. No president has ever reviled so many individual Americans by name. President Eisenhower was more respectful in discussing convicted atomic spies Julius and Ethel Rosenberg than Trump has been in referring to dedicated law enforcement professionals who have served our country for decades. Well, that's true, and Max Boot understands that Trump is just a gutter prick. I don't know how else to put it. There's no class. Any class that Trump has is all third. The only taste he has is in his fucking mouth. You've seen the pictures of his apartment in Trump Tower. Who needs to piss into a gold receptacle? Who needs to do that? Unless they are so fucked up in the head. But I digress. The FBI and Justice Department officials in Trump's sights are all tough guys or tough gals. So they haven't dwelled too much on the pain and suffering the president has inflicted on them. But the toll is real. Boot writes, most of Trump's targets have lost their government jobs or been forced to quit. McCabe was fired 24 hours before he would have collected his pension after 21 years of service, and he has faced the threat of criminal prosecution for his alleged lack of candor with the Inspector General. He told CNN that it is revolting and, quote, quite honestly terrifying to be accused by the president of treason, end quote. And Jim Comey noted in a Washington Post op-ed I mentioned a second ago that his, quote, 89-year-old mother-in-law watching Fox News in her Iowa assisted living facility became convinced that I was going to jail, end quote. This is Trump. This is this filthy son of a bitch, Trump. Page told the Daily Beast, Lisa Page, that what she has experienced is like, quote, being punched in the gut. It's demeaning, sickening, and intimidating, despite the fact that I know there's no fathomable way that I've committed any crime at all, let alone treason. He's still somebody in a position to actually do something about that, to try to further destroy my life. It never goes away or stops, even when he's not publicly attacking me, end quote. The he here, of course, being this pig son of a bitch, Trump. And Boot also writes this. Listen up. If Comey, McCabe, Page, and the others thought they would enjoy respite from this modern-day McCarthyism after the release of the Inspector General report, they were sadly mistaken. Rather than apologize for his loathsome lies, Trump doubled down by calling the FBI scum, falsely alleging that Strzok, quote, needed a restraining order, end quote, from Page, which is not true. He said, that's what I heard. I don't know if it's true, but he puts it out there. And his bobble-headed fuckers all sit there in those stadiums and go, yeah, I know that's true. Yeah. And Trump claiming the report that actually shredded his conspiracy theories had instead revealed, quote, an overthrow of government, end quote. Fox News and other right-wing media outlets, followed by millions of Americans, shamelessly echoed these Orwellian lies. So did ultra-partisan Attorney General William Barr, now the second most dangerous man in America. Max Boot calls him that. He accused the FBI of bad faith, gross abuses, and intolerable behavior. If there is another example of the Attorney General disparaging the FBI in public, I'm not aware of it. Worst of all, John Durham, the prosecutor handpicked by Barr to investigate the investigators, publicly disagreed with the Inspector General's findings. This, too, is unprecedented. Prosecutors don't comment on ongoing investigations. And it suggests that the men and women who dared to investigate the president could still face political prosecution. This is what it's like living in a Stalin-esque society. This is what it's like. The Gulag hasn't been established yet, but it's coming. It's coming. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to The Ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.